The night is heavy. The air carries a dampness that chills your bones. Imagine yourself standing on the windswept hills of Ireland, thousands of years ago. The harvest is over, the fields lie stripped, the cattle driven down from the highlands, and the cold season is beginning its slow, merciless crawl. It is October's end, and with it comes the night of reckoning. This is not just a feast. This is not just a turning of the seasons. This is Samhain, the night when the old year dies, and the veil between the living and the dead is torn open. But before we step fully into this dark passage, let me leave you with a warning. What you are about to hear is not simply a history lesson. It is a shadow that has lived for thousands of years, a story that still breathes through Halloween today. And once you hear it, you will never look at October the same way again. So stay with me until the very end. And if you're brave enough to walk this road through fire and shadow, then subscribe, leave a like and share this with someone who thinks they know Halloween, because the truth is far darker than they imagine. And perhaps sharing it will keep Samhain's spirits away from your door tonight. The Celts who lived here did not see time as we do. To them, the year itself was alive. It was born in the light of spring, grew strong in the heat of summer, withered in the autumn harvest, and died in the cold jaws of winter. Samhain was the death of the year. It was not joyous. It was not hopeful. It too was inevitable. And like every death, it had to be marked, mourned, and feared. You can picture them now, families huddled in wooden huts with thatched roofs, the last of their crops stored, their cattle restless in pens. Fires are extinguished in every home, leaving only darkness and silence, waiting for new flames that would be drawn from sacred fires lit by druids. To live through Samhain without that fire was to invite death into your house. The druids, the priests of the Celtic tribes, prepared great bonfires on the highest hills, but these were not fires for warmth or celebration. They were guardians, living walls of flame meant to purify, to protect, and to scare away what slipped through the cracks of the world. On this night, those cracks opened wide. For Samhain was the night when the veil thinned. The fragile skin between the world of the living and the world of the dead became transparent, weak, fragile, and through it came whispers, shapes, presences. Some were the spirits of ancestors, welcomed with offerings of food and drink left at doorsteps. But not all who crossed were kind. Some were vengeful, some were lost, and some were never human at all. The villagers knew the risks. That is why faces were painted with ash, why grotesque masks were worn, carved from animal bone and wood. These were disguises. If the spirits roamed freely, better to walk among them unnoticed, better to look like one of them than be seen as prey. Imagine walking the dirt paths, between huts, the night so black you can barely see, and shapes moving past you, faces twisted, eyes hollow. For a moment you don't know, are they neighbors wearing masks, or something else, something that doesn't belong in this world? That uncertainty was the very essence of Samhain. And then came the fire. The druids lit their towering bonfires, sparks flying into the starless sky. Families gathered, their livestock driven through the smoke, as the fire was believed to protect the herds from illness during the coming winter. The flames were prayers made visible, each crack and hiss a message to the gods. Offerings were cast into the blaze, grains, fruits, animals. Some ancient texts whisper of darker sacrifices too, lives given in the hope of survival, blood feeding the flames so that the tribe would be spared. Stand there in your mind. Smell the smoke thick in the night air. Feel the heat on your face as the fire roars higher. The druids chant words you cannot understand, syllables, heavy and ancient, rolling like thunder over the hills. The shadows of masked figures dance on the edges of the firelight, bodies painted, eyes glinting in the orange glow. For a moment it feels like the living and the dead are not separate anymore, that both are circling the fire together, indistinguishable. And that is Samhain. It is not a festival. It is not joy. It is survival. It is fear turned into ritual. It is humanity standing at the edge of darkness, begging not to be swallowed whole. Yet the most terrifying part of Samhain was not the fire, nor the cold, nor even death itself. It was the wandering souls. The Celts believed the dead were restless during this night. Ancestors came searching for warmth, but others came hunting. Mischievous spirits could slip into homes, sour milk, sicken livestock, led travelers astray in the night. More terrifying still were the creatures of Celtic myth drawn to the thinning veil. The cedar, the fairy folk, who were not delicate beings but powerful, dangerous, capable of luring humans away forever. The pucha, shapeshifters, who brought ruin or twisted blessings. And above all, the devil's own tricks whispered through the countryside. Though the Celts had no devil as we know him, only shadows that seemed older and hungrier. So what did the people do? They disguised themselves, they lit their fires, they offered food to wandering souls. And sometimes they left a place empty at the table, hoping it would satisfy the spirit of a loved one who returned for just one night. Can you imagine sitting at a rough wooden table by the fire, a bowl of stew steaming in front of you, and beside you another bowl, untouched, waiting? You pretend it is kindness, but deep down you hope it is enough to keep the spirit from growing angry. And through all of this, one thought lingers in every villager's mind: will we survive the winter? That is why Samhain was not only about spirits, it was about judgment. The year was over, and now the tribe's preparation or lack of it would be revealed. Too little food, too few animals, and death would claim many before spring. And so Samhain was also a time of divination. The fire, the smoke, the ashes, all were believed to hold glimpses of fate. Girls threw hazelnuts into the fire to see which would crack first, predicting future husbands. Others watched the flames and swore they saw shapes, warnings or promises of what was to come. Samhain was the night of endings and beginnings, of death and rebirth. But above all, it was a night of fear, fear of spirits, fear of hunger, fear of the unknown. And as the fire roared, the veil trembled, and the people prayed, one thing was certain: no one escaped Samhain untouched. The fire burns high, spitting embers into the sky. Each ember twists upward like a soul trying to escape, and for a moment you almost believe they are alive. The druids' chants echo across the hills, mixing with the cries of cattle and the whispers of villagers. Children clutch their mothers' skirts. Old men stare into the flames as if hoping to see the faces of those long gone. Samhain is not just a night to fear the dead, it is a night to remember them. And that memory is a dangerous thing. Because the Celts did not believe the dead simply rested quietly in another world. No, they walked, they searched, they lingered. On this night, their presence was close, so close you could almost feel their breath on your neck. Some spirits were welcome. Families hoped for ancestors to return, to bless the household, to bring protection through the winter. Food and drink were left outside, tokens of hospitality for wandering souls. But what if the offering was not enough? What if the wrong spirit came? That is why the masks were so important. Imagine walking outside, the mist crawling low to the ground, carrying a chill that makes your teeth ache. A figure approaches you, its face twisted into something grotesque, jagged teeth, hollow eyes. For a moment, you shudder. Then you realize when it is your neighbor, wearing a mask of carved wood and animal hide. He is not scaring you. He is scaring something else. To the spirits, humans and monsters would look the same. And so, hidden among them, the living hoped to be spared. But not all spirits could be fooled. Some had been wronged in life. Some were hunters in death. The most dreaded were the cedar, the fairy folk. Forget the stories of delicate wings and sparkling dust. These beings were something far darker. They were ancient, powerful, and unpredictable. On Samhain night, the cedar rode out from their mounds, sweeping across the land in wild hunts, capturing souls and dragging them into their otherworldly courts. If you heard the pounding of hooves in the distance, you prayed it was only horses. If it was the cedar, no prayer would save you. Others feared the pucha, shape-shifters who prowled the edges of villages. They could appear as black horses, goats, or even humans with eyes too sharp, smiles too wide. Some said the pucha brought blessings, souring milk and spoiling crops to force humility. Others said they cursed whole families. On Samhain, the pucha was everywhere and nowhere, slipping through the veil, reminding mortals that they were never truly safe. And then there were the restless dead. The Celts believed that those who died in sin, or those buried without proper rites, wandered forever. On Samhain night, these souls roamed freely, searching for warmth, for vengeance, or for companions to drag with them into the cold darkness. This is why offerings mattered so much. A bowl of food, a drink of ale, a seat left empty by the fire. These were not kindnesses. They were bargains. They said, "Take this and leave us in peace." But bargains with the dead are never safe. Picture a small hut on the edge of the village. The fire inside burns low. A family sits in silence, a bowl of bread placed carefully on the windowsill. The father watches the shadows outside shift and curl. The mother whispers prayers under her breath. The children close their eyes, pretending to sleep. Then a sound, soft, deliberate. Footsteps in the dirt. The bowl is gone. You never see who took it. You never ask, because asking might invite the wrong answer. And all the while the druids keep their fires burning, their voices rising in chants that are older than memory. The flames are more than light. They are walls, shields, weapons against the night. But even fire has its limits. Because Samhain was not only about protecting the living, it was about passage. It was about transformation, and transformation always comes with pain. The Celts believed Samhain was a liminal time, a crack between seasons, a doorway between worlds. That made it dangerous, but it also made it powerful. This was the night for divination, for glimpsing the future. Hazelnuts were tossed into flames, each nut representing a potential lover. The one that burned brightest would reveal a husband or wife. In darkened rooms, mirrors were gazed into, hoping to catch a glimpse of the person you would marry, or something else staring back. Young women would peel apples and throw the skins over their shoulders, watching the shapes they formed on the ground. Letters appeared, initials, messages from fate itself, but divination was never safe, because to look too closely into the future is to invite the gaze of what waits beyond. Some said that if you stared too long, you would not see your lover. You would see your death, and once you saw it, you could not escape it. Samhain was also a night of reckoning for the tribe itself. The cattle were counted, the grain measured, the stores weighed. Those who had prepared poorly were already condemned. The gods would not intervene, nature would not forgive, winter would claim the weak. And so Samhain was both a spiritual battle and a brutal reminder of mortality. Every man, woman, and child felt the shadow of death pressing close, whispering, "Only some of. You will live to see the spring." And perhaps that is why the rituals grew darker. Sacrifices were not only symbolic. There are whispers, fragments of ancient Roman accounts, Christian chronicles, that speak of human lives offered to the fire, prisoners, slaves, sometimes even volunteers. To feed the fire was to feed the gods, to keep the tribe alive. Whether these sacrifices truly happened or not, the fear they represent is real. The fear of facing winter unprepared, of knowing that survival might demand blood. Now imagine standing there. The bonfire roars, painting the night sky in orange and red. Shadows writhe, stretching long across the earth. Figures in masks circle the flames, their movements frantic, desperate, half dance, half prayer. The air is thick with smoke and sweat, with the smell of burning flesh. Somewhere in the darkness, something moves, watching, waiting. Maybe it is the spirit of a lost ancestor. Maybe it is something older, hungrier. Either way, it has crossed the veil, and it is here now, sharing the night with you. The fear is overwhelming, but there is also power in it. Samhain was not only about death, it was about renewal. The fires did not just burn offerings, they burned the old year itself, purifying the tribe, leaving only ashes on which the new year could grow. When the fires died, the villagers carried the sacred flames back to their homes, rekindling their hearths with light drawn from the druids' pyres. To sit in darkness was to invite death, To burn with the sacred fire was to declare survival. But as the fires smoulder, as the chants fade, and as families retreat to their huts, a silence falls over the land. Outside, the veil is still thin. Spirits are still wandering. The night is not over. And until the sun rises, you are never truly safe. The night stretches long, and the fire burns lower. Villagers retreat into their huts, the sacred flame now burning in every hearth. Yet outside, the darkness is thick, alive, whispering. The veil has not yet closed, and the dead are not yet gone. The families gather in silence, children clutching charms, parents murmuring prayers. Every gust of wind rattling the doors feels like a hand trying to push through. Every creak of the roof feels like footsteps overhead. Samhain is not a single ritual. It is an endurance, a test of how long you can survive the night with death pressing at your threshold. The Celts believed that the dead lingered until dawn. That meant the hours between midnight and sunrise were the most dangerous of all. Those who dared to venture outside risked more than cold. They risked being taken. Many tales speak of travelers who vanished during Samhain, never seen again. Some say they were dragged into the other world by the cedar, enslaved to dance forever in their halls of stone. Others say they followed the wandering lights, ghostly flames flickering in the dark, believing them to be lanterns or fires, only to discover they had been lured into bogs, where the earth swallowed them whole. One story tells of a young man who left his home during Samhain to fetch water for his family. He carried a small torch to light his path, but the wind blew it out. In the darkness, he saw a dim glow ahead, a light bobbing gently. Thinking it was another villager's fire, he followed. The glow led him deeper into the woods, into thicker mist, until at last it stopped. There, in the silence, he saw a figure standing in the light. Its face was pale, its eyes hollow, and its smile stretched too wide. The boy never returned. In the morning, only his empty bucket was found, filled with stagnant water and ash. This was the danger of Samhain. The dead did not come back as you remembered them. They came back twisted, altered, carrying the cold of the grave, and once you followed them, you did not come home. The druids taught that Samhain was not only about fear, but about respect. The dead must be honored, given their offerings, their space at the table, their fire by the door. To ignore them was to invite disaster. Crops would fail, animals would sicken, children would die in their sleep, but to honor them too much was just as dangerous. Too much attention, too much devotion, and the living might be drawn into the realm of the dead themselves. It was a fragile balance, one that demanded vigilance. And yet, there was something else moving in the night, something older than spirits, older than the tribes themselves. Samhain was not only the death of the year. It was the moment when boundaries failed, between life and death, light and dark, order and chaos. In that collapse, other things awoke. Creatures born of fear itself, shadows without names, whispers that spoke not in words, but in promises of despair. Some believed these beings were the very essence of winter, walking among men, choosing which houses would freeze, which hearts would stop, which villages would wither. Imagine standing at the edge of the firelight, staring into the woods. You hear movement, but not the crack of branches or the rustle of leaves. It is heavier, slower, like something dragging itself across the earth. Then you see it, a shape, taller than any man, its limbs too long, its head shrouded in darkness. It does not move toward you, it only watches. And you know deep down that if you step beyond the circle of fire, you will not return. That was Samhain, a constant negotiation with shadows you could not understand. As the hours crawl by, the villagers cling to their sacred fires. Some whisper stories of loved ones they feel beside them, a father's voice, a child's laugh, a grandmother's touch. Others speak of nightmares that creep in even while they are awake, visions of corpses walking through the fields, of skeletal hands scratching at their doors. And always, always, the knowledge that when dawn comes, some will not wake. But dawn does come. Slowly, the first light creeps over the horizon, weak and grey, but enough to push the shadows back. The veil thickens, closing once again. The dead retreat, the whispers fade, the creatures vanish into mist. The living step outside, exhausted, hollow-eyed, but alive. They have survived Samhain. The fire still burns, the year is dead, and now a new one begins. Yet the price is never forgotten. Samhain leaves its mark. Those who vanished are mourned. Those who saw too much carry scars, and the memory of the night, the thinness of the veil, the press of the dead, stays with them. That is why Samhain was never just one night. It lingered, echoing through the days of winter, reminding the Celts that survival was never guaranteed. Over centuries, Samhain changed. Christianity spread, bringing new festivals, new saints, new explanations. All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Eve, names meant to cover the old ways, to bury them under holy words. But the fire could not be extinguished. The customs endured. The masks remained. The offerings at the door. The belief that spirits walked on. October nights all survived. They twisted, they reshaped, but they lived on. And so Samhain became Halloween. The dead still walk, though now they are painted in children's costumes. The offerings remain, though now they are candy at the door. The bonfires still burn, though now they glow in carved pumpkins. The fear lingers, softened into celebration, but never fully gone, because deep down, something ancient still moves in the dark each October. Something older than saints, older than churches, older than even the Celts themselves. And if you doubt it, light a candle on Halloween night, set it in your window, and watch the flame flicker. For a moment you may think you see a shadow pass behind it, a shape in the corner of your eye. Don't look too long, don't invite it in, because Samhain has never truly ended. It waits, year after year, for the veil to thin again. And when it does, it will not matter what name you call it. Halloween, All Hallows' Eve, or Samhain. The dead will return, the fire will burn, and you will remember that October is not about costumes and candy. It is about survival. It is about death. And it is about what waits in the dark when the veil finally tears. So the next time you carve a pumpkin or hand candy to a masked child, remember where it all began. Remember the cold hills of Ireland, the druids chanting by firelight, the villagers hiding in their huts, praying to make it until dawn. Remember Samhain, and ask yourself, when the veil thins this year, will the spirits pass you by, or will they stop at your door? If you've stayed with me until now, you are braver than most. But bravery is not protection. So share this story, spread it, let others hear it. Because the more who know, the less alone you will be when the shadows lengthen and the dead begin to walk. Subscribe, leave your like, and write in the comments what you fear most on Halloween night. And as you do, keep your lights burning, because when they go out, you may find yourself face to face with something that should have stayed on the other side of the veil.